Greetings and salutations, welcome along to another Steeler Boy video. This time it's another FSX tutorial video on how to set up SPAD, the Saitek panel advanced drivers, combined with FSUIPC for the Commanche, the A2A Commanche 250, which is what I'm sat in at the moment. This was a little bit more work than I first anticipated. Most of the switches actually work kind of out of the box with SPAD, but there were a couple that actually required more or less a whole day of investigation and searching on the internet of how to get it set. Actually, the landing lights, we'll come to those in a second, but what I want to do is to bring down first of all the window for SPAD, which is here. Now, I am using both the fully registered version of FSUIPC and of SPAD. I've got the normal kind of home purchase for SPAD, simply because, you know, I'm heavily into flight sim and I want as much configuration out of these things as possible with the hardware that I have, which, as you can see down in the bottom right, currently I'm focused on the switch panel, the Saitek switch panel, which is what I'm going to be concentrating on today. So, as I say, most of the switches kind of work out of the box. If we just start from the left hand side, let me just focus down a little bit. Hang on, let me get that. There we go. Bring back SPAD again. Where's it gone? There it is. Right, so if we start from the left hand side, this here is the rotary switch for the magnetos. Fairly straightforward. This is more or less as you'd find in any kind of aircraft that has a similar magneto switch. We've got the off position, we've got the right position or going to right, left, then both on and then start. The start actually also presses the start button here as well on the aircraft. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on that one. That's pretty much straightforward, and you'll probably see that one covered in my last SPAD video. So if you want to go back and check that one, then you know, please do so. So suffice to say that if I turn the buttons here, it goes to left, right, left, and then both, and then start. It actually engages the starter. So let me just switch those back again and pull that out. Get back start. Okay, right. So that's that one. Going along the top is the battery. Again, fairly straightforward. This is your master switch here. So switched on, I've got it sending a toggle to the master battery, and it's just a toggle switch. So switched on, switched off. It's the same command to both, and it just toggles. So this is the master battery down here, on and off. Again, fairly straightforward. I'm going to skip past the alternator for the moment. There is no alternator on this aircraft. It's just one standard master switch. So I'm going to skip that one. So we're going to go on to the Avionics master switch, which is here. This is your Avionics master in the aircraft. Again, it's just a toggle on and off. So we'll look at that one. On. Oh, that's interesting. It ain't working. Hang on, that's the autopilot I'm focused on. My bad. Where's the auto? Where is it? There it is. It's hiding behind the window. That's the autopilot switch. Yeah. So this is the Avionics master. They've actually, this wasn't here to begin with. When they first released this aircraft, there was no Avionics master switch. So this is the update, the updated version that I'm going. So let's try that again. There we go. It's now working. So that's the Avionics master switch. Then we go for the fuel pump, which is this yellow switch here. Again, a straightforward toggle. Electrical fuel pump. We'll go for that one. On and off. I will show you how to add one of these, by the way. This is a later version of SPAD than the first one I used. It's an updated version. And I have obviously set a profile for the A2A Commanche. But I will go through adding one of these in a couple of minutes. I just want to cover these ones. So going on, pitot heat is this black switch here. Again, it's just a normal toggle. Well, actually, no, it's not. Beg your pardon. This is a on and off one. So switched on, pitot heat on, switched off, pitot heat off. So we'll do that one, on and off. Okay, fairly straightforward. Panel light I'm going to leave and come back to in a second. Beacon lights. This again is a toggle beacon lights, which is the rotating beacon, the orange switch there. On and off. Then we have the nav. Now the nav lights, this is the one that actually got me beat. No matter what I do, I could not actually get this one configured at the moment. Basically what happens is, on this aircraft, again, let me just take SPAD out the way and come down here. This is your navigation lights. Now it's actually a rotary switch. It's actually like a rheostat. So it's off. That's fully off, everything off, as you can see. You then left click it once, it turns the navigation lights on, but your instrument panel remains kind of dim, and then you basically go all the way round to the right hand side and your instrument panels go fully lit. If I just hover over it, they are nav on, instruments 100%, and you turn it the other way to turn everything off. So that's actually a rotary switch, which is very, very difficult to emulate on a switch panel. I did try, and I tried my best to get nav kind of on and off, even just to switch the navigation lights on without worrying about the instruments. It didn't work. I could not get that to work. So we'll have to skip over that one for the time being. If I do manage to get that one working, or if any of you guys know how to do that, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll cover that in a different video. So moving on, we have the strobes. This is an on and off one again, which is this one here, the white switch. So strobes on, strobes off. Let's just flick those on and off. On and off. Now then, okay, we're on to the lights now. Now this is the one that I spent most of a whole day trying to get the lights sussed and everything else. It basically involves using a little script, a macro script, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated. What you need to do in your FSX modules folder, you need to create a little file, and it needs to, well, I've called mine C250_switches.mcro. Don't worry, I'll put it in the link in the description. I'll put the actual file like this. I'll put this in the description so you can actually create it. This is the content of the file. You've got a landing light right, a landing light left, because on this aircraft there are left and right landing lights. There are also 3 lights in the cabin. There's a floodlight at the forward of the cabin, a floodlight for the passengers at the back, and there's also a red light. So I'm going to emulate all of those. So you create the macros file in your FSX modules folder. Then what you do is, when you fire up the sim and FSUIPC, what you will see, let me just go in here and open up FSUIPC, and this is why you need the fully registered version. Yeah, so we go into buttons and switches, and if I click, for example, profile specific, and let's just flick the navigation button because I haven't got that configured. Oh, hang on a sec. Let's just go for panel lights. So this is one I've already configured. Now, this is what you'll see is when you go for FS control, in here, you will see those entries from your macros file. Yeah, your 3 cabin lights and your 2 landing lights. They will appear in the list, and you basically set them. Now, what I'm going to do is open SPAD again, or bring down SPAD. Let's go for the taxi lights. Yeah. Now, because there are no taxi lights on this aircraft, if I go down to my switches again, there we go, landing lights. There are 2 landing lights, no taxi lights. So what I've done is I've configured the taxi light switch to be used as the left landing light, and the landing light switch to be used as the right landing light. Then if you're taxiing, you could just put the left light on, and then of course when you're taking off and landing, you put both on. Now what you need to do is you need to assign a virtual joystick button to these 2 switches. How do you do that? Well, let's just delete these events and I'll show you how to do it. Let's delete that and delete that. So you add an event, choose to switch on to start with, add an action, select virtual joystick button and go to, hang on, there should be 64 there. Where are all my joysticks gone? One sec. It should be 64. One sec. Let me just drag that off screen. I've had this before actually with this when I'm doing videos like this, for some reason, and I haven't cracked it yet, whether it's my graphics card or memory, I don't know what, there's some corruption and it won't show all the drop downs. If I drag it to a different screen, it's fine. So let me just drag that back. I need to pick button 0 because that's what it was on before. There we are. That's what it should be. You can use any of the joysticks, of course, and any of the buttons, but for me, I'm going to go for joystick 64, button 0, and click OK. That's now what happens when it's switched on. When it's switched off, again, we need a similar one, switched off, add action, virtual joystick, and we choose 64. I'm going to have to drag it off screen again. Right, and I'm going to make it button 1 this time. Okay, so we've got joystick 64, button 0, and button 1 for on and off. What we then do is we just get SPAD out of the way. Bear in mind this is the taxi light, so it's the left light, yeah? FSUIPC, buttons and switches. You then, and this is very, very important, you need to click or check the profile specific box. If you don't do that, then any aircraft that you fire up will be looking for this configuration basically. So, you know, the taxi lights on, say, your default Cessna will not come on. They won't operate in the same way. So you need to click profile specific, and you need to check that every single time you go to buttons and switches because it doesn't remember it, unfortunately. So click profile specific. We then press the switch that we want to activate. In this case, it's the taxi light, this one here. There we go. And it says it's joystick 64, button 0. Then we would choose, it's already actually selected here, but we would choose from this drop down list your landing light left. Now you'll notice that there's only a landing light left and a landing light right. What do we do about switching it on and off? Well, we choose that. This is where the parameter comes in. When it's on, it's parameter number 1. When it's off, the parameter needs to be value 0. So it's 1 at the moment, so we'll click OK. That means we can then turn it on. Now we want to turn it off. So again, we go to FSUIPC, buttons and switches, check this box, very, very important. Then we flick the taxi button down. It's now gone to 64, button 1. It's already selected, so I'm not going to select it again, but you select landing light left and you'll notice this time the parameter is 0. Yeah, which means we can then on and off, on and off. We do the same for the landing light right. If I bring SPAD down again. So that's the taxi light, the landing light. I've got the same joystick button, sorry, the same joystick 64. This time it's button 2 and 3. So you do exactly the same process for the landing light as well. And in FSUIPC, buttons and switches, profile specific. Let's press the landing light on. There you go. Joystick 64, button 2, landing light right, parameter 1. Okay. If we then switch it off, it's button number 3, and this time the parameter is 0. Okay, makes sense? So it's fairly straightforward. The important thing is you just need that file in your, and again I'll repeat, your FSX modules folder. Yeah, and it should be called, well, you can actually call the file itself anything as long as it is a .mcro file, standing for macro. But I'll put all that in the description. So that's the all the switches done. What about the alternator, which I said I'd come back to later? I have actually got that configured. Again, it's another macro. I've got it configured for the red light switch, the cabin red light switch. If I just scroll up, and I'll go back into my seat and go back. As I said earlier, there are 3 lights in this aircraft. You've got a floodlight at the front, a light at the back, and then you've got a red light as well. The red light. So, what we do, if I go to SPAD again, so I've got it configured button 8 and 9 on joystick 64. We go to FSUIPC, buttons and switches, profile specific. I'm going to flick the alternator switch. There we go, and it's configured for the cabin red light switch parameter 1, which means it's set to on. If I flick it off, same red light switch, parameter 0, which means it goes on and off. So if I just look up to the red light switch, which is this one here, on and off. The floodlight at the front, which is here, the front floodlight is currently off. And again, if I just bring SPAD down, the one I used for this, because there are no, there's no cowl on this aircraft, there is no cowl to close or open. So I've actually configured the panel light is my front flood. The cowl I've configured for the back floodlight. And you'll notice I'm using the same joystick but just different buttons basically. So the back light is 6 and 7, the front light is 4 and 5. It's exactly the same process as selecting all the others. So if I get rid of SPAD, bring down FSUIPC, profile specific, and if I press the panel light, for example, which is that one, cabin flood 1, which is the one at the front, parameter 1, let's turn it off again, parameter 0. And the rear floodlight, which I've configured for the cowl, there we go, cabin flood 2 on, cabin flood 2 is now 0. Let's see those in action. So this is the front one, which is the panel light. There's the little switch there, on and off. And going towards the rear, there's the little switch there for the back floodlight. Watch it when I go for the cowl switch. There we go, on and off. So there we are. That is the basic switch panel and the use of macros. In theory, you can do that with any aircraft, but the landing lights was the one that confused me to start with, and unfortunately the navigation lights I've not yet been able to suss out, but hopefully I will at some point. But you know, in all honesty, it's not a huge problem, because with these switches, as in any kind of switch, you can actually use the mouse scroll wheel. So all you do is you hover over it and use your scroll wheel like that. So you can do that. It's not a huge problem, but it would be nice to get it on a switch panel. That, I think, is about it. That's covered all of the switches there on the switch panel. The gear up, by the way, gear up and gear down is just a straightforward gear up, gear down. That should work fine. So there we go, guys. That's just a quick tutorial on that one. I know a lot of people were asking for help on the Commanche. I hope that's covered it. What I'll probably do next is I will look at the radio panels, and I'll show you how I configure the radio panel, or how I've actually set my particular Saitek radio panel up to give lots of different parameters and values. So I'll probably do that in the next video. Alright, until then, guys, thank you very, very much for watching. As always, please put questions and comments down below in the comment section. It's always great to get your feedback on what you think of the videos and what you'd like to see coming up. Thank you very, very much. Until the next time, take care and goodbye for now.